think I doubt anybody will come in here. Afraid I get this out of the way because I'm not gonna feel like going live tonight. Get some people in here and we should be good to go. There we go. Or not. See if anybody. There we go. We got some people in here now. It's weird. Oh, okay, the number's going up now. Before it was saying 0. We make this clear. We're not talking about current events at all. I'm just got done watching James Best talking about trucking software programs. It was pretty interesting. He had mentioned that I have not done a video for Ray at Fogline, and I have done videos. Admittedly, they were poorly done because I don't have, or I didn't have at the time, I guess I could acquire it now, but I didn't have at the time the kind of software or, that could show like screenshots. What I did is I put the phone camera onto the screen, but then I had to be careful what I was showing because I don't like having my numbers out there. I don't like having my address out there and that kind of thing. So I talk about the code. It's sa10fogline.com or Truckin' Pro, and it's a good program. But I've recently started dabbling with Truckin' Office, and just when I get to learn that, that's when James puts out this thing about Truckin' Logic or Truck Logic. There's too many things with the word trucking in the name. Truckin' Pro, Truckin' Office, Truck Logics, Keep Trucking, And it would help if I do a couple of loads. I've put in 2 settlements into it. I started at the beginning of the month. I had to call a friend of mine to help me maneuver through it. But I could see where the value is on somebody has their own authority. So, but we'll do some shout outs. And all 10 of you. We got Big Houston, Chucky, Jonathan Whaler, Donnie Luke, Cascade, Rick, how's it going? Nothing Witty is in the house. Jose, how's it going? Cascade says Truckin' Office. I'm on the 30-day trial with Truckin' Office, and we'll see what it does. All the features that I need won't be that expensive, and we'll see what happens. I could run that Truck Logic side by side, but I would rather start that 14-day trial when I actually start running some loads, which will hopefully be Tuesday. It is the furnace. We have a loud furnace. I tried Truck Logic, didn't like it. Scott, I was wondering, I was looking forward to your opinion. I went to the reviews and they were all over the place. They were either 1 star or 5 stars. And but their overall general was 3.5. And I do know by experience that when you go to Google Play Store and things are generally below 4 stars, you're generally going to have a lot of issues. Now, I will say this, TruckLogic was proactive on a lot of these bad reviews, but I'm, if it works for some people, that's great. I'm not here to sell you one thing or another. If you want to use Fogline software, I have a code SA10. That'll give you 10% off. And it's one-time fee. And for the Schneider IC or contractor for someone, it's great. It does have the tools to run your own authority, but you run into the convenience factor. And Ray knows that. Ray knows that that's his biggest challenge is dealing with the cloud-based programs. If I can get my chores done today, I might go live tonight to talk about my year-end expenses on what the truck costs, all the expenses that I cost, and some of the numbers will surprise you and some of the numbers will not. I don't know, we'll see. A lot of people want, what'd you gross, what'd you net, and I really don't like giving those numbers because it's misconception, so, but Thomas Wilson, Tim Towns, 17 of us, says Richard. James' new deal sounds intriguing. Tim, yeah, it's a 14-day trial period. Now, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in being a business owner is you can't be the guy. Well, no, let me rephrase that. It's more challenging to be a business owner if you're the guy that throws receipts in the box, tries to do everything at once at the year end, and you measure your business by your deposit slips. I've had 4 owner-operators tell me that. And that's what I used to do. And it's been challenging. I was talking to a friend of mine about LLCs and S corps and C corps yesterday, and I don't even remember how I registered my LLC. I don't remember if I registered it as a sole proprietor or as an S corp. I have no idea. And so Monday I'm contacting an accountant that bigrigceo, James DeJong works with, and having a conversation with her, and then possibly moving my services to her, because while my tax person does okay, I'm looking for something more local. So at the time I tried it, the flow was not good. They may have modified that since, but I'm comfortable with Truck and Office for now. I tried a program called RigBooks. I like Truck and Office better for invoices. Adam says, LOL, Mr. Best is hustling, trying to sell the newest products. Get to work. The Hool, good morning. Jason Perry, good morning. No, you can't tell where you're really at. Bank balance is not accurate business. Oh, I know that now, Cascade, but I used to. Because here's the deal, if you measure by only your deposits, and you deposit, let's say you've got $30,000 in the bank, one truck issue can take that out just like that. Are you successful? Do you know what you're doing? And one of the Facebook pages I've really come to appreciate is MX13 PACCAR page. It's really helped me with trying to address a few problems. Because this year has been an expensive year for, oh, well, 2020 was an expensive year for the truck. Um, in between COVID world and my own hangups, it's been it's been a lower revenue year. You know, when you hear Jeff talking about you can't just sit around, I think those are directed towards me. You know, I don't you know, there's probably more to that story, but we'll just leave it at that. And the assumption is because I got a paid off truck that I'm not going to run as much, and that's not true. Although it looks like it at the time, at this time. Donnie Luke, that's funny. Look, the only thing you need to post on the rate and lane pages is the dead horse beating the dead horse gif, because it's the same arguments. You know, there's been a few times where I've just replied, ask an accountant versus Facebook. Notice that I did not take my S Corp, C Corp question to Facebook. Um, Now, there is some value to those pages. You can hear me now. Yeah, that furnace is pretty loud. If we have to, we'll switch to the dining room. It's not as bad. Um, if it was nice out, I'd just do it outside. But then you got the traffic noise and all that. The value to those pages is that you can see how other people are handling brokers. You can see the people that have logical thinking, how they handle situations. And I have gotten a lot of good tips. But most of the time, you got some guy beating his chest telling you that you're an idiot if you're taking less than $4 a mile, or you know, they're bragging that they did $600,000, you know, without telling you what kind of equipment they're pulling, or you know, or that they got their own authority and don't even know how to invoice people, you know, stuff like that. But for the most part, there is some value, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. Um, any input from Jeff or option? I was that guy 20 years ago, not keeping good track of my business. Yeah, I mean, I was the same way. You know, I was you know, Facebook Memories is a great tool, and I can see what my mindset was when I first started. And the interesting thing about, you know, I have a very successful business person told me that the best way to learn something is just throw yourself in it, right? It may not be the easiest way, but it's a good way as long as you learn from your mistakes. And you hear that old saying, if I knew then what I know now, things would be different. Yeah, but you wouldn't have had those lessons, right? How do you learn? By failing, right? And back then I didn't surround myself with a lot of good people. I didn't surround myself with anybody. I mean, you know, Big Rig CEO and I were friends, but I was dealing with a platform he's never dealt with. So he wasn't really he was a help, but he wasn't like, you know, we couldn't like network with, you know, his Landstar friends or whatever. Um, and thankfully, this YouTube has allowed me to network with a lot of people that do know what they're doing and are helping me achieve certain goals in my business. And my biggest regret right now is that I didn't make some changes at the beginning of 2020 like I wanted to. because I was distracted with things. And with the political climate, with the health climate, and with things going on personally, and we're rectifying that now. So staying focused is probably one of the most important things that you can do. Number one, and number two, surrounding yourself with good people is the second most important thing, because when you lose focus, they can help you get back in focus. When you need help, if they are a little bit further along in something, they can help you with that. You can learn from their mistakes. James Best said something that I've reiterated myself in the language of memes on Facebook, is that you hang out with five successful people, you're going to become the sixth. And that's true. I used to be a guy of, I used to be, I there were many moments in my 20s and 30s where I was the smartest one in a room full of idiots. and and when you're the smartest person in the room all the time, you never learn. And you gauge yourself like, oh, I've got my act together compared to these people, right? And not that I was really judging. That does make me sound like I was conceited back then. And in some ways I was. But only because I didn't know any better, only because I didn't know that there was a bigger, broader, smarter world out there than where I was hanging out at. And that's like key, it's doesn't matter what background you have. If you're in with the right people, you're going to be better than you were, right? Thomas Wilson only ran 9 months last year. Nice. I'm glad you turned the air off. I can hear you now. It's probably going to click on again. If it clicks on again, I'll lower the thermostat, make the house freeze for a little bit. There is a certified YouTube mechanic badge, but also accountant, medical doctor, and others. Don't forget the Facebook version either. What you're talking about. And Tim, I hope that's what you're asking. I don't know if you're asking or telling me. You got to learn. Experience comes from doing, right? If you know 75%, you will learn the other 25% doing it. Absolutely. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I like that. I like that, Scott. Pool is the Ice Hotel up and running this year? You can't learn if you're talking all the time. You have to listen and learn. All right. Heater's getting ready to kick on. Hold on a second, guys. We shall move this gate. You guys can look at the cat. That's getting ready to be very sad. So, there we go. All right. Sorry, kitty. All right, let's change this here. Kitty. Right? Here we go. Oh yeah, so is that better? Is the noise not as bad? See the scary images in the window? You can't learn if you're talking all the time. You have to listen and learn. Big Houston, that is one of the most truest statements, and I think that we live in a culture where there's constant podcast and people like me doing these live feeds, and you can have people talking and not say anything. You know what I mean? Um, and I used to be really bad about that. I used to sit right here at this table and tell you how to run your business when I wasn't doing stuff right myself. I have been hypocritical at times. Um, and I did an apology video about that, about, if I made it look like it was easy without telling you everything, but I don't beat myself up for it, because we get caught up in this whole live feed thing, and there's so many people that on YouTube and Facebook that pretend they're doing good and they're not, and you have to realize that. There's a lot of things that aren't what they seem. Steve, would you add the kind of maintenance that I've done into the year-end numbers, or just regular maintenance? You have to put all of it, Thomas. If you're asking for your own numbers, you have to put all of it in. Because let's say you did all new airbags on the truck. You can call it maintenance. For me, I file everything under maintenance and repair. It's all under one column. I don't separate. I do separate tires. That's it. And that's only because the trailer, right? But maintenance repair is under one category for me, because it's all the same. If you replace airbags ahead of when they need to be replaced, they're still being replaced. Doesn't matter if they were bad or not. So, and that also means that you won't have to replace them for a long time unless, you blow one or something, or it's defective. So yeah, you put it all under the same column. How many of us knew everything about trucking when we started? In fact, how many of us know everything now? Good morning, Kevin. How's it going? Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. I mean, you can't. Too many people are quick to judge, and that's why I've always claimed that I don't know what I'm doing, because I don't want people to think that I know everything, because I don't, right? And I am extremely open to suggestions on how to improve myself all the time. And in the end, the only person I got to make happy is myself. I mean, I can do everything for the company, and if I'm not happy, that's no good. I could do everything for the family, but if I'm not happy, that doesn't do my family any good, because they would rather see me happy versus them living like kings and queens, and me being miserable. To me, whether it's business or life, it's all about balance. And if you have no balance, that's not good, right? What good is it to gross 300,000 in the dry van spot market and run all 48 states and never see the house if it burns you out and you leave the truck 2 years later? That doesn't appeal to me, unless you're able to, like, okay, for the next 5 years, I'm going to not take a break. I'm going to wear this truck out. I'm going to make as much money as I can and pay off the house, pay off this, and invest in this. And then then I could see that. That's a 5-year plan. But if you run all 48 states, stay out 3 months at a time, and you can't afford to shut down, or else you'll lose everything, that's a lot of wasted effort. The only person that makes money if you do that is the carrier. You don't. You lose your relationships, you lose your sanity, you lose your health, you make bad decisions because you're basing your decisions off emotional response. And I've been there. I've made decisions. I've pushed in that air brake valve and just went home, being mad. I've done that. Was it the best thing at the time? Probably not. But then I can look back and learn, and if I'm not that far ahead, I know why. And to me, it's about balance. So. That will knock your numbers in the dirt. Well, Thomas Wilson, you paid for it, right? I don't think there is such a thing as the smartest person in the room. Everyone has a niche. When you learn how to extract that niche, then you've hit the jackpot. I'll agree with that, Steve. Build, and no debt, right? I've never in my life filed taxes. Quick hit, good morning. So it's about balance. Sometimes I got to pay attention to the business, and sometimes I got to pay attention to the house, and sometimes I just got to figure out what the next step is. And I encourage everybody you have to evaluate your situation, just like what's going on the on the country spectrum. Is that a cool, calm mind will allow you to make decisions that aren't based around anxiety or desperation or emotion. When you're desperate, you do desperate things. I've been there, done that. When you're emotional, my dad was a very emotional person. I mean, he was he was one of these jaded old truckers that just, he hated to be home for too long, but he hated to be out for too long. He was never, he was only able to find balance like the last probably 4 or 5 years of his career. And even then he finally had to get off the road. And then he died shortly thereafter. But I think the biggest regrets I have right now is time. I've wasted so much time, you know, um, just idle time. When you're not good at something that a business needs, find someone that is, right? Truck for Life, good morning. YouTube with Attitude, good morning. Chris Billingsley, morning Snoller. Christopher from Fayetteville, Arkansas. Sorry, man, I've been working on the weekends. Glad I caught you this morning. Good deal. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that, Cascade. There's a witch hunt going on. I want no part of that. My wife files my taxes and even signs it. I honestly don't even know how much I made driving, Steve. Since I bought this truck, I do keep up with the numbers. Well, if okay, so let's go back to what Cascade was talking about, or Cascade was talking about. If you know your weaknesses, number one, you have to be honest with yourself. If you know your weaknesses, then like, okay, like for me, example, okay, my weakness is filing and organization paperwork, right? So I have friends um, that are helping me solve that problem. I don't know how to do taxes. So I'm going to hire somebody to do my taxes for me. I'm not the TurboTax guy. I'm not like Jeffrey Light and just do it all myself. I'm not that guy. I've never been that guy. It's a challenge for me to even do my tax filing paperwork. And if it wasn't for my wife, I would be screwed with capital S, because she organizes all the house stuff. We always do deductions. We always got a lot of things going on. And if it wasn't for her organizational skills, I would be screwed. And so I'm trying to create that on my side of things so that life can be easier for both of us. And so, does it cost a little bit extra money? Yeah. But, for example, I bought Fogline software, and with the discount code, I get a percentage of what that sale was. And so basically, I've got it for free. If you add up all the money I've made from Fogline, which is not a lot, but enough that it paid for itself, right? And there's been a couple of times I was so glad I had it, like especially when we bought the second house. I was able to print out a P&L, send it to the bank, and they were good to go. 4 years ago, I couldn't do that. 4 years ago, I was like, what's a P&L? And while I had my accountant doing that, I wasn't good about sending them receipts because I had no way to organize receipts, right? And so if it costs me an extra $100 a month to learn to be able to file easily, to make it easy, then that's worth it to me. You always hear the question, is it worth it? Is it worth it? If you're the kind of guy that absolutely doesn't want to do the back office and paperwork of being an owner operator or having your own authority, then you have to hire somebody that is willing to do that for you, or you have a good partner that will do that for you. Maybe your spouse can do that for you. And you learn together. Partnership is, hey, I have weaknesses here and I have my strengths here. Let's combine forces, right? Because your strengths are polar opposite of mine and your weaknesses are polar opposite of mine. So together we make a good force, and that's how partnership succeeds. Daily bookkeeping is my weakness, but TurboTax I can do. That surprises me because I would think that would go hand in hand. Say it again, Steve. We would both be up the creek without a paddle. So I farm out the daily bookkeeping. I agree. My wife takes care of all the finances, but like you said, I'm trying to get into learning. She is teaching me. I staple each receipt for the day to load them in there. There you go. Look, like for example, if you were to get your own authority, okay, and the reason why this is on my mind is because we have 3 contractors that are doing that right now at Like Trucking. They're moving on to the next step. And so we have these discussions, right? And one of the discussions is like, you can go to LIDA or NASDAQ and they'll do all of it for you. They will They will tell you when and where and how to write the check. Um, and they will, for a monthly fee, they'll maintain it. It becomes a turnkey operation at that point. But the problem I have with that is that, well, how do you learn? How do you learn how to do it? For example, if I paid somebody to do my IRP, I would have never have learned. Instead, I had Jeffrey Like, go with that circle now, walk me through the IRP form as I was doing it, and made it less intimidating, and we got it done. And then the next year, the renewal was okay. I got to be a little bit more organized. And then after that, each renewal's been like that, 10 minutes. If I had paid somebody to do that, I wouldn't know how easy it is to do once you do it. Does that make sense? I know that sounded kind of all weird and stuff, but I could definitely see the value of those services if you absolutely just don't want to deal with it. And then, you have the argument, well, if you don't want to deal with that, you're not ready to be a business owner. No, that's not true. Some of the best businessmen are people that are able to delegate responsibilities to people that know what they're doing. If I had to come up with a business plan for another business, I couldn't do that. I don't know how to do that. So I'd be happy to pay somebody to do that for me, but also help me learn how to do it if I decide I'm going to even open more businesses. See what I mean? I know how to do the daily. I'm just lazy. Cascade, that's another element of being honest with yourself, is I am lazy. I will be the first to admit it. So the problem I had with Fogline software was a personal issue. It's nothing to do with the software at all. It's a good software. It's an excellent program. I'm going to be able to tell you what my costs are down to the penny, right? However, I'm that guy that only fires up the computer once a month and does everything at once. And then and then it's no wonder why I dread it, right? So I'm trying the truck in office because you can do it on the fly, you can do it on the phone, you can do it on the tablet, you can do it anywhere you want. It's a cloud-based system. I don't have to worry about the system crashing because I've had my computer crash with all my numbers lost. I've done that, Luckily I backed it up, but still. And so I'm willing to pay a little bit a month for the convenience of, we've always got these in our hands anyways. So I'm willing to pay the amount for the convenience of that. If it gives me a more accurate, if it makes it, how did James put it? If it makes it less emotionally draining to do the day-to-day back office stuff, right? Now you hear a lot of people with their own authority or with carriers talk about the back office. You as a business owner, whether you're a lease operator at Schneider or a lease operator at Swift or an owner operator at Landstar or an owner operator here at Like Trucking, or you have your own authority, there's always back office. You've got your 2290, you've got your IRP if that's what you do, you've got your equipment maintenance, you've got your bookkeeping, you got your taxes. There's all kinds of back office that you have to do, no matter what level of the game that you're at, or what position. I guess position's a better person, or a better term. And I don't know, it's all part of the game. and people that love numbers love doing the bookkeeping. But I'm a lazy person, I will admit, and I'm trying to fix that. That's a constant. I get complacent. It's not really laziness as far as it's more complacency, and it's easy for me to be complacent and not have a fire under my arse, right? And the first the first the first rule was admit you have a problem. That's what I had to do. I admit I had a problem. So what do? I call my friends up. Hey, how do you organize your email? And I call up another friend. How do you organize your tax stuff? How do you organize your receipts? How do you organize this? And I read those kind of rates and lanes and art rate per mile master pages on when people start talking about how organized they are. And I remember there was a gal that owned a tattoo shop that I'm friends from the old metal scene. And she was asking me about how I organized my receipts, because she was literally on the floor with all these receipts in front of her. And I showed her my little system, and she was like, oh my God, this is life changing. And sometimes it's just that one trick, that one tip, that could be a life changing moment for someone to motivate them to go to the next step. And there is a struggle. I was on the phone with my buddy Scott about trucking office for 2 hours night before last, and then another hour and a half yesterday, because I had a bit of an issue and we were trying to figure out a certain way to add things. And then once we figured it out, I'm like, wow, cool. Now I just need to do a load to kind of figure out and get a system going. And it goes back to surrounding yourself with good people. You guys think about that for a second. I'm going to pour myself some more coffee. All right. There's nothing wrong with delegating responsibility, but as the owner, you still have to maintain control and knowledge of everything that happens within the company. Right. And that's a good point, Scott. If I had paid somebody to do my IRP every year, I wouldn't have control of that. Well, the whole purpose of being an owner operator is having that control. You know, um, if I just left it up to other people, what's the point? If you're going to run 30 trucks, you aren't going to do everything yourself. You're going to hire people that do those things. It's called a bookkeeper, dispatcher, maintenance, safety, etc. So what's the diff? Right. I agree with you, RD. I think the rules are after 10 trucks, you have to hire a safety manager, i.e., a moron like me, to to be designated as a safety manager. The insurance companies like that, right? And and I'm not, and Jeff's got Steve Starr doing the dispatch type stuff, and there's been a lot of changes here, like trucking, and Jeff is figuring out growing pains. It's a lot easier to manage 5 trucks and they're all your friends. But then when you get up to 10 trucks and you got people moving on, or you got people that have gone out of business, either way, you've got a revolving door now. Now you have to treat it more like a carrier. So a lot of the changes are very carrier-like, I guess. No pun intended. I study my numbers almost every day. I just don't like the data entry. It takes me about a day to do my personal and business taxes, really about 4 to 6 hours. Um, RD, how's it going, man? Hope you're feeling better. Crap, I have to do my IFTA. Spooky's in the door window. Yep. Pale Rider, come back to the road, Snorler. We miss you. All right, Scott, I will call you later. So you won't know every detail. You will have the 10,000-foot view, like carrier services. I do miss the road, Pale Rider. I honestly do. A lot of people are under the impression I'm afraid to leave Missouri, but the tough part I'm having to adjust to is, do I really want to go 600 miles for 1,200 bucks, or just try to find another $800 load for 78 miles? So complacency has come in, and so, but Tuesday we're going to run Tuesday, and then the rest of January we're going to be out, because I need to go. I just need to go. I found that if I stay home too much, I'm dwelling on negative things socially, in the social media spectrum, and I'm distracted and complacent. And there was a time where I would be complacent with that, but now it's like I need to see that money coming in. I'm addicted to those daily settlements if I'm delivering every day, that kind of thing. So it's time to get back in the action and hope that the truck is still going strong. I seen a good load the other day, 90 miles for $900, called on it. Broker said, oh, that picks up 140 miles from the shipper and drops 65 miles from the receiver. TQL, just many. Yeah, James, that's part of the game. TQL is not the only one that's doing that. They're infamous for it, because I think they kind of wrote the book on it. But there's like 3 or 4 brokers, especially in my area. I hate it when you go to an area and you see the 20 loads by one broker that are constantly updated, that it's obvious it's the same load, but it's just like, it makes it look like there's 20 loads in your area and there's only 3. I hate that. I usually don't play that game. I mean, there was one time I called a broker on a load that was listed as Sullivan, Missouri to Indianapolis, Indiana. And I happened to be in Sullivan, Missouri. I was like, I'm literally delivering in Sullivan, Missouri. So I called. Oh, that's actually St. Louis to Chicago. What? I was so irritated with that. I said, thank you, have a nice day. And I've never called that broker since. They could have a load on the board that would be Joplin to Springfield for $6,000. I would not call them. Well, maybe I would call them, but I would know that was probably a typo. But I have yet to use that broker ever, and never will. And that's why I won't say their name out here. Truck smarter, not harder. Absolutely, Mr. Demon. Absolutely. I'm pretty good. I got to do a couple more things, and I'm going to get out of there and hit it. If the CSA thing with the WIDA, talk to my DOT auditor, and then I should be ready. Good deal. See, Cascade Transport just evaluated that, and that is a good load. Depending on the time, So a lot of people don't like dealing with the short haul stuff. There is a lot of sitting. I will admit that I'm in the truck way too much and not enough driving. And it gets to you. If I was a little bit more disciplined, I would be cleaning the truck up and getting rid of junk and organizing my files and stuff like that. But I'm not. I'm too busy going live on YouTube or talking to people on the phone when I should be doing something. And I'm on the phone a lot. The other day, my wife was like, you've literally been on the phone for the last 6 hours. How do you do that? And I'm like, this is a day in my life, you know? But that's also because there's a lot of people around me that are making changes, and we like to bounce ideas off each other. We like to talk to each other. We like to help each other. You know, I've got a friend that's getting ready to get his IRP, and I imagine we will be having many conversations about that. You know, just like my friend Scott helped me with truck and office. You know, Cascade's going through a lot of stuff because he's getting his own number. So he and I have been chatting about things and what he's doing and the process that he's going through and the mistakes that he's made and the things that he did right. And Cascade's got business experience from past, and so we talk about things like that. So it's a good conversation. And so you look up, and next thing you know, it's 2 hours later. Whereas you're driving, you know, it's the same thing. But around here, I'm like walking around the house, or I'm cleaning the kitchen up, or I'm out back, you know, that kind of thing. Good morning, Daniel Adami. Yes, it was a good load, but hate being lied to. James, that's the struggle with that. Like, okay, that's a good load, but you guys are a piece of crap. You know what I mean? Um, and so it just depends on how you know, you don't want to reward that behavior, but they're going to do it whether you reward it or not. So why let somebody else capitalize on that? James Best, how's it going? I get pretty aggravated with TQL silliness. Generally, I call, ask them where the load really picks up and delivers, then quote them a higher rate than they want to pay, and then they say no, and I say bye. Look, there are times when you call TQL and they actually do have the right places. You know, if you know your areas, like I've had really good loads from TQL, and I've hung up on TQL. It's a little bit of both, and I think they understand that. They understand the cost, you know, lost analysis. Um, when you come across an agent that's being shady, you just don't even do the load. However, when you finally do a good TQL load, keep that agent's email. And so when you see a load that you might look for or you might want, contact that person directly. If you find it, it's just like that's the way it is with any brokerage. If you find somebody at a mega broker that you like dealing with, keep their email and run everything through them. That's been a key to some of my success. Now, some companies like C.H. Robinson and Coyote, they assign you your representative, but for the most part, you know, TQL, Ryan Transportation, Transplace, what's the name? Landstar. If you find a good agent, you know, run everything through them. Don't even bother with the 18 different phone numbers, you know, because they all have access to it. They all have access to the same thing. And if they don't, you know, then you make different phone calls. But I try to run through the same people as much as I can, because you develop relationships with them. You can joke around with them. You can talk with them. You can you know, have a good distracting conversation with them. It's not always about trucking, and they're usually more willing to bend as much as they can. You know, a lot of times these agents really don't have any more than that, or their boss won't let them give them any more than that. You know, when they say that's all I have in it, that might be true, or that might be the limit that their boss will let them have. You know, that it's you know, and that's why dealing with small brokerages can be important too. But the disadvantage of small brokers is that what's their customer base? Unless they're using a 3PL, they don't have a customer base. So that there's that challenge too. The people that you can develop relationships don't have anything. So never on the phone with me. My phone misses you. Oh, Pale Rider. My wife says the same thing as I'm walking around the house with my headset on. Yep. I never had a problem with TQL except for once, and after that, I never used them again when I was on the spot market a while back. Daniel, that was that load that you found out you had the wrong delivery number. Was that correct? Am I remembering that correctly? No Landstar, they're always cheap. I disagree with the Cascade. I've gotten some good rates out of them. I know a person that does very well with them. That's a tactic of a co-broker load. That's all we have in it. Well, James Best has talked about these load boards for them, where they pick the load and they try to move it, and there's really no wiggle room on those. So, the problem lies in when they say that they don't have any more in it. Are they telling the truth, or or is it really what the customer's limiting them to? Maybe the customer's not desperate to move that. So if you can't move it for 800 today, I'm not going up to 1,000 until you have a truck, and we'll just let this sit and wait. That's a tactic that they use, to keep their leverage. And right now, nobody's in a hurry to ship anything except Amazon. Um, just like, someone asks you, "Hey, can you do this for 1,000?" And you go, "Well, my minimum rate is 1,500. Can you go any lower?" Nope. Well, why not? Well, how come that's all you got in it? You don't tell me the reasons why on that. So it's part of the game. It's part of the, and you gotta. It's, it's, it's part of the game, and trust me. Calling 20 brokers every single time you got to book a load, that gets old after a while. Trust me, it does. It's all about consistency. I've said that, beating the dead horse and shouting in an echo chamber when I say that, but it's true. Landstar looks after their own first with better rates for their own. Rates are different for anyone else outside that isn't with Landstar. Yes and no, Screaming Demon. Yes and no. There are some agents that want nothing but outside trucks. Now, the Landstar BCO, I called on a load one time when I was at Landstar. It was a load from Bloomington, Illinois to Indianapolis, Indiana. And I called the agent and they said, "Are you a BCO?" And I said, "Yeah." No, at first he thought, "Are you an outside carrier?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Well, outside carrier, it paid like, I think it was like $800. And then he was like, "Oh wait, you're a BCO, it's 1,000." Well, when you take the 65% out of the 1,000, I was actually making less than what the outside carrier was making on the net side. See what I mean? So that's why I say yes and no on that. That's how that works. But you have two types of agents, or three types of agents at Landstar in the dryman world. One that have direct customers, and they usually have people in trucks that they own, and they're just using them as company drivers. You have the agents that do nothing but co-broker. They look at Sage Robinson, they have a deal with Schneider or whatever, and post those loads. And the third are the multi-million-dollar agents that can pretty much do what they want because they have direct customers. But they don't own any trucks. So they're putting all of it, some of it in the spot, some of it in the BCOs. But sometimes the BCOs are the last to get anything. So I mean, that was one of the issues that I had with that platform there. Not all freight needs to be delivered tomorrow. They'll take it tomorrow if the price is right. Right. No, it was a load that said it picked up close to the house, going to Georgia for 27. When Raleigh was picking up Laredo, 107 miles away, going to Marianna, Florida for like less than 1,800. We've ran some crazy numbers for Landstar. BCOs make more money on the load if sold on the spot. And I also know guys that went on their own authority and then run power only for Landstar and make more money because they make a bigger cut. So Landstar pays slightly more than outside carrier than what most BCO's percentage is. I've been quoted an outside carrier rate by mistake when I was leased there. Yeah, same here. Same here. I don't know. Every Landstar load I've called on was really cheap. Now I don't know. Now I don't call until I've exhausted other options. The deal is a lot of so-called agents. They're what we call pajama agents, right? I remember that term. Their business model is basically being a spot market dispatch service. There you go. RD hit it right there on the head. And RD came from Landstar, so he and I share that same experience. But people do very well there. But when you're getting 65% of the line haul, when you add in all the insurances and everything else, you take a $3,000 load and you're lucky to bring home 11. And that was very deceiving for a guy like me that wasn't keeping track of his true numbers. But I take it back. I did pay off things. I did pay off my pickup. I did manage to do a few things when I was there, but then I also had to go into debt making a truck repair when my turbo. Well, I mean, I was at Schneider when the turbo went out, but that was early at the Schneider time. So Schneider, I had more consistency. So I appreciate my Schneider time more than my Landstar time. But the mistakes and skill sets that I had learned at Landstar have helped me for the spot market. Like negotiating, dealing with that gross revenue, that kind of thing. You were at Landstar twice. What's up, Storm? Greetings from Oak Creek, Wisconsin on 43 and home. Good deal. It's probably cold up there. Is it cold up there in Wisconsin? It's cold here. It's been just absolute, just dreary weather here the last several days. Here in Springfield, Missouri, if you have a 60-degree day, it's guaranteed that 2 days later it's going to snow. So, or ice. We had a pretty decent ice storm earlier this week or last week, and it took down a couple of branches, which my wife so awesomely cleaned up. No, G-Star, I'm not on the road yet. Tuesday, I will be. So, anyways, guys, my coffee is getting cold. I'm not drinking it fast enough. You guys like my mug? I'll tell my Landstar story when I go live a little later, so make sure to stop in and listen. All right, RD. If I get the notification, I'm not in the middle of something, I will listen in. My coffee is cold too. It is really coffee, see? Any more comments, questions, concerns? No, I've not gotten a Pale Rider TV mug yet, and I need to. You're right, Pale Rider. Where's the light trucking mug? It is in the sink. It is dirty. I used it yesterday. So. That's funny. It'll be my new go-to mug. James Best, he's got it through Teespring, so he's got a link on his page. Pale Rider, feel free to put your link to your coffee mug here if you wish. Copy and paste, Mr. Pale Rider, Mr. Lawson. Do it. Yeah, when are we going to get together with OTJB and drink cold coffee? That requires going to Illinois. And I'm like, Illinois is icky. Well, James Best has a lot of free time. He could drive right down here. I could take him to the cigar place again. There's a certain steak place that we can go to that we didn't go to the last time him and Harold were in town. And um, we can we can we can hang out. Big Billy, what's up? Big Billy is a person. You guys check out Big Billy's channel because make sure I get this right. You're Schneider IC. That's where we met at GATS. You left and went to Mercer with your Schneider finance truck. Paid off the Schneider finance truck. You flirted with Farm to Fleet or F2F for a second, and then went back to Mercer, and then you got your own authority. And so, if you guys want to see a new carrier with their new authority, he's another channel to watch. So. What's up, old man? Better tell your Landstar story quick, RD. I have a feeling the powers that be are coming after your channel and probably me for being in your chat. LOL. Yeah, it's definitely a weird time we're dealing with right now. There's a witch hunt. Listen to the words of Harvester of Sorrow by Metallica. And tell me that doesn't ring a few bells. You're welcome, Big Belly. You and I hung out at GATS and it was a good time. You and me and Pale Rider and TK, we're all just hanging out. And I kind of miss those days. I miss the days when I was at the truck shows and the camaraderie of one year it was all the camaraderie of us YouTubers and the Schneider guys, and then like trucking camaraderie that we had at GATS and MATS. And the last GATS, I was the only light guy there. And whereas the Dallas before, it was like pretty much 3 of us, and then MATS there was like 5 of us. I miss that a little bit. So good deal, day cab. Yep. Metallica. We'll talk music for a second. Metallica, and Justice for All. The lyrics on that album are just absolute brilliance. I don't care if you hate newer Metallica or whatever. I'm not going to debate that. I actually like newer Metallica, but Justice for All was their darkest album because they were dealing with Cliff Burton's death at that point during a lot of the songwriting of that album. And the lyrics to the album are just absolute, socially aware, based off a lot of books that were based off a lot of statements. And that Harvester of Sorrow is about some things that have happened in the past in Russia or Ukraine, I think. And you got to look up the history of where that song's based out of. But then if you don't know about the backstory, it's still a powerful message in and of itself, which is the great thing about a good lyric writer, is that you can identify with the lyrics based off of your perception, no matter what your perception is. And You know, we have to set something up after this crap is over. Look, I agree with you, Billy, but I have a feeling that this is the new normal. I know RD hates it when I say that, but the reality is that, you know, it was a year and a half, a year ago, I was calling this the new normal, and I was right. I was spot on. The corruption in Congress has gone on. Yeah, I agree with the old fat white guy. James, man, it took forever to get that new authority numbers, waiting a month and a half until now. Wow. You'll die when I say you die. Back to the front. I think that's on Master of Puppets, but still true. Yeah, Daycap, that's a Disposable Heroes. That's a very anti-war song. Um, you know, of course, Master of Puppets is about cocaine, what it does to you. You know, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and The Just for All was the peak of their lyric writing, I believe. Hetfield has always been an influence on me when it comes to lyrics. And it was so refreshing at that time. You know, at that time, you had all the glam bands talking about just getting some and excess and all that. And Metallica wasn't about that at that time. And, you know, it was refreshing. That's what appealed to me. Just four guys in t-shirt and jeans just shredding the hell out of your music, you know, your ears. That's what appealed to me. And that's what appeals to me about metal, you know, in general. So, but anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'm gonna guzzle this coffee and call it a day when it comes to YouTube. Thanks for everyone that tuned in to Pale Rider's channel last night during his live feed. Make sure you check out Pale Rider TV Friday night live feed every Friday at 8. You know, Pax James, I'll be hunting myself instead of someone hunt food for me, and big money is ready for emergency. Oh, what did, so you won't know every detail, you'll have the 10,000-foot view. Oh, I don't know why that went, that's weird. The chat just screwed up, that's weird. There was a chicken fight going on. Waiting for Snorler to roll into the living room and tell the wife that he thinks he should throw everything into scratch lottery tickets because Homer Simpson came to him in a dream and said to do it. Bye, 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 hero. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. All right, guys. Be safe. Be profitable. Don't let emotions dictate logic. Later.